Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Tech in EdTech. Today we have with us a very special guest. I have with me Camden Iliff. I've known Camden for around 2 years now, and he's been amazing in terms of his thoughts on education, EdTech, and technology. Cam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Depesh. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Cam. Cam, before we get started, would love to know a little bit more about you. Tell us and the audience about your background, how you got into education and EdTech.
So I've been in EdTech for about 25 years, and I
Mhm.
started as a 17-year-old intern out of the university, and my mother helped me get this internship with a upcoming student information system, and her school had recently been one of the early adopters. Knew the executives there at the company because it was a small company, and was able to get me the opportunity to work with some really great people. Then pretty much from there, I've kind of grown from intern to software developer, programmer, led development teams in the student information system area. I've built gradebook systems. I've built teams all the way to 30 to 60 members, multiple Scrum teams, and all the way up to where I am today, of a VP of engineering and product.
Great, Cam. That's an amazing journey. So, from an intern till this VP of engineering, you've seen the edtech landscape change over the years, and it's been changing rapidly, especially I would say since COVID. So, last couple of years have been interesting. We saw a huge adoption in digital after COVID, and then we are seeing some interesting data and trends in education. What is your take on the last couple of years in terms of tech adoption, in terms of ed tech trends?
Well, you definitely saw the one-to-one initiatives start many years ago, over a decade ago. And COVID accelerated that to the point now where, of course, one-to-one is a given in almost every school across the US. And it's now become just an integral part of how students learn. But you know that's great on the technology front. But COVID has left schools with lingering problems. We all know of the persistent learning gap that students are facing right now, particularly coming out of COVID. We now see rates of absenteeism and chronic absenteeism, not just on the rise, but we're talking about having doubled in a lot of cases in schools. And schools are facing these challenges of trying to solve these problems that they never had to before. That the learning gap was narrowing. Students were improving across the board in all demographics. Absenteeism was on the decline, and COVID reset everything back to a place that schools are very uncomfortable with and don't necessarily have the tools to effectively deal with today.
Yeah, and it's and you we all have the scores of learning loss. So you're right about all these changing trends. Now, when you look at this, a lot of our listeners are folks who work at edtech companies. What do you think can companies do to stay agile and responsive to these changes?
This really comes down to how we structure our product teams, the type of people that we have on them, and the ways that we engage with schools and the stakeholders in those schools. And oftentimes, in the past, there was a very superficial engagement that perhaps a a product team was there, engaged with schools as software and systems were being developed, but the ongoing relationship certainly diminishes over time. And this new age of ed tech gives us an opportunity to re-engage at a very deep level and establish deep relationships with educators. And on the product teams, we get into product road mapping, and we need to stay agile out there because our landscape is changing so quickly that a traditional product roadmap just doesn't fit. And I've found myself in my own road mapping needing to build in massive empty space in these roadmaps to deal with emerging customer needs. Everything is changing so fast, we have to be able to change on a dime and rotate.
Yep. So what you're saying is, again, go back to fundamentals, stay connected to customers, listen to their voice, and their voice should reflect in the product roadmap. And it's a very important point, and seems very straightforward, but isn't. And a lot of it is the push needs to come centrally. What is your take on how do you set some of the goals for product team so that they incorporate these elements?
So, we focus at the company vision and mission level. And
Mhm.
what we've lost a lot over the years, you've seen massive corporate mergers and acquisitions creating larger and larger EdTech companies. I mean, we've seen EdTech companies grow into multi-billion-dollar a year organizations, gone public for public trading, and these large corporations, they have a more difficult time engaging with customers in a way that that people in education are have become accustomed to. That these are names, and faces, not numbers. And so we need to reset and establish that basically every edtech organization out there, their company vision and mission should match the goals that of these schools that they support. That if a school has a particular vision and mission, edtech organizations should be matching those tech
Yeah.
as a public good. It shouldn't be viewed as a profit center. And certainly there's money to be made, but we're not here working with schools because we're trying to make a ton of money. We're here working with schools because we're trying to improve the school experience for students. We shouldn't be asking how we can make more money. We should be asking how we can increase our impact on today's learners and tomorrow's leaders.
And when you do that, I believe money is a byproduct of you creating a maximum impact. So that was very helpful. Now, if we take the mission and vision and we come back to, like, I'll go a little micro. How do you how can companies effectively understand customer needs, right? I mean, it everybody speaks about understanding the needs of customer. What are some of the common mistakes that you see when you try to understand customer needs, their goals, and align it with company goals?
Years I've been involved in the hiring and management of dozens of product managers, and I've found that with education we are a very niche market, and that when you float these positions out there for PMs and BAs, you're going to get a lot of candidates who are very well qualified PMs and BAs across the board in different categories and different market sectors. But the it's hard for them to learn what it means to operate a school. That and even colleagues from other companies I've had conversations with, I asked them, how do you go about finding good PMs and good BAs? And really the answer for the education space is that you don't find PMs and BAs. What you find out there is people who know schools already, school operations, classroom operations, district operations, the way that our industry does business. And then you train them to be a PM, or you train them to be a BA or a PO, or whatever the case may be, whatever position you need. And that's easier to do than it is to teach an experienced product manager how schools operate. So I've made that policy across the board when I hire for these positions. And really, the best product managers in EdTech, they surround themselves with people in education. They seek out current and upcoming challenges with just the people around them. It's their friends, their family, spend their 9 to 5 doing what they need to do in ed tech, and then go and just completely leave that behind. It becomes part of your life, thinking about how schools work. It's the articles that you read and the people you hang out with. And if you fill your entire company, you're going to build amazing products. And the best tools I've seen out there are those that were started by teachers or former teachers. And maybe that person brought in key business professionals to help create a strong corporate structure to turn that teacher's vision into reality. But so often you see products being built by professional product managers who only have experience in direct to consumer markets, and whose experience in education is that they were a student for half a decade and a half. And that doesn't make for a great product manager. Most people have no clue really how complex school operations really are.
Yep. And brings me to an interesting point. Of late, the more and more EdTech product managers or product leaders that I'm talking to have had the experience in school. Some of them have, a lot of them have been teachers. Some of them have been administrators. So they very, very intricately understand the nuances of operating schools and classrooms, and it gives them a very unique vantage point from a product development perspective. So which is needed. And when you talk about aligning goals to customer needs, how would you measure that this company has done that successfully or this company hasn't? How do you measure the success of aligning the goals with customer needs?
Well, I've always measured the success of products I've worked on by the success of the learners that are out there in the schools that we support. And I want to see test scores and graduation rates improve in the customers that I serve. I am constantly looking to compare my customers with schools who don't use our products. I want to see a struggling school product, and I can be part of turning that school around. And you finally made it, and truly are successful as an edtech organization when word gets around that if a school is having problems in a particular area, that your product is actually the solution, that they're not going to be able to turn around and and have a strong impact on learners without your product in place.
Right. And I think that kind of impact, yeah, it's amazing to feel that what you've done has helped somebody, has touched somebody's life, has changed somebody's schedule, has made them feel more empowered. So I think that's a good way of looking at how you measure product success. Now, you mentioned one thing about aspiring product managers. I had a question. This is more tactical. If there is a product manager out there, or BA, or somebody who's in not in edtech, they are in other domain, but are looking to move to edtech, what are some of the tactical advice that you would give them? If somebody is an experienced PM but in other domain wants to move into edtech.
You have to immerse yourself as you move into ed tech. The learning how schools operate, I mean, certainly is one thing. If you can get into a classroom to observe teachers over the course of days or weeks, if you can mirror folks at a district level or a school office level and see the challenges that they face day to day, and basically take on those roles as if they were your own. Hands-on experience is always best, but in the absence of hands-on experience, there's, I mean, dozens, if not hundreds, of trade shows out there. There is, of course, a lot of those trade shows stream their content for free or for paid. Knowing what educators are hearing, what they're interested in, know the trends of the industry. These are going to be out there. There's going to be there where networking and engaging in these industry conferences can really help. Whether it's an MTSS conference, it could be a teacher education technology conference. It could be an IT conference, and all of these, there's these little niche, say, roles within a school, all have their own conference in pretty much every state out there. Certainly, some of the big national players like ISTE, great place to start and sign up and go. Uh, work to attend every session you can to talk to people and vendors. And then I've also, I wasn't an educator. I did not come. I did have a lot of people around me, whether it's my mother, my stepfather, aunts and uncles and cousins who were teachers and school administrators, and that was great. But you really don't start to understand what they're doing as you're trying to build software until you start to say read the same books they're reading. What interests this principal? How is that he or she thinking about the ways that they can improve their schools? When you look at teachers or curriculum directors of the district, how are they strategically aligning their knowledge with improving the student success? And go read those articles from those influencers out there. And many years ago, for me, it started with a district that invited me. I was just a programmer for a long time, and of course, engaging with as a small company, engaging with districts directly, engaging with schools and teachers directly that were just around me. But of course, I already had the job. But I was invited by a district superintendent. They had hired an expert at grading policy to come and do an engagement with their teachers, the two high schools in their district. And so I was able to attend a 3-day workshop with the district and hear what was being taught to the teachers in a way of grading for student success. And this really changed for me the way that I thought about how I build software for schools. I was able to understand that these weren't just problems that a school was facing, but these were fundamental philosophies that we had to adopt and integrate into our product strategy in order to build the most impactful products for our customers. So learn. It's learn what schools do, learn what those folks are learning, see what they see, and try to put yourself in their shoes. And that gets you ready for a transition into education products.
That was a very comprehensive answer. Thank you so much. What that reminds me of another. So when I was new into edtech, I started by in sales. I remember I was reading a lot of sales books and sales content, and somewhere I saw a post on LinkedIn where the person said that if you want to be successful, master your domain, learn your domain better than anybody else, and that was really a trigger for me. So now what we do is even anybody on the sales and marketing team have to talk to customers, just to understand their life, understand, be in their shoes, develop that kind of empathy, because that's when you'll be able to develop strategies or content or anything that directly impacts them. So yeah, so the checklist is immerse yourself in the domain, talk to people out there, go to trade shows, and I'm sure when you reach out to people, people are more than willing to help you understand this better. So yeah, I think that's pretty comprehensive. Thanks, Cam. And we are in 2023 right now, and no conversation is complete without AI. And I have some more questions for you, but I do want to talk about AI. What do you see? How do you see AI in the current realm? And of course, a lot has been written and spoken about in the last few months. But any thoughts on your end? What do you see? What are your hopes? What are your challenges that you see? Would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, it's certainly top on everybody's mind right now is how to apply AI in your business. And mean, there's basically a simple statement out there that right now every business today should have an AI plan. And whether it's a startup, whether it's a business that's been around for decades, we need to, we know that AI and machine learning is one of the most transformative technologies that we have seen in a while. And we've seen, of course, that accelerated growth recently. But so we all have to have a plan. We got to know a set of guidelines as a business to kind of guide us on how and what to integrate in AI. At a minimum, AI should help with business operations. We already know that. Helping employees be more productive. And on a high end, we of course need to look to adoption, and with full integration of AI technology into the products that we build. But too often we see AI being added to products where it just doesn't belong. AI, basically, it's AI for AI's sake. And I see these companies and their marketing, and I have AI this, but I've written algorithms for that in the past. And I'm trying to think, well, couldn't AI do it better? It's like, well, yeah, maybe. And I think about, what does it take to train that AI model in order to do that effectively? And I start to question, well, I wonder if anyone's actually using it. And more than likely, nobody is. And it's just a marketing ploy. And I can't stand that personally. I want to implement technology that actually makes an impact. So we certainly don't want to just do it for marketing's sake. But we should be cautious in selecting a particular technology when that technology is changing faster than we can integrate new versions of that technology. Find yourself very easily investing in an AI technology that is surpassed by another system within months. I mean, this industry is changing so fast. And if your competition integrates that newer technology, now you are behind the curve. So, is it good to have old AI when your competition has the new AI? Should you wait and it's that last person to implement the best software that is, or the best AI software that is going to be, say, saving the most money because they're not re-implementing technology over and over again. You may invest in either building or integrating AI technology in your products. And the worst case scenario is that your customers just don't use the AI features that you've invested thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars on, because there's actually a better free version out there right now. And as an example, if I was building a system today that helped teachers, let's say, build and share lesson plans, it's a common use case scenario. It makes sense to have an AI like ChatGPT built in to your software that could help write that first draft of a lesson plan. But but that's assuming, of course, I integrated GPT-3. But we know that GPT-4 blows version 3 out of the water. So why would teachers use the AI that I integrated into my software when they could actually go and get a better product elsewhere? And even though that better product, it may take a couple of months for a new one to come out, or it's next year, but you see your investment basically not being used because, I guess, oftentimes EdTech companies, a lot of us are small. And so when we invest, we need to know that that investment is going to last for the future. And AI, it will last, but it's so rapidly changing and improving that it may not be the best choice to invest today if it's not going to actually have a long-term impact on your schools that you serve, or in your business operations. But there is real value, I believe, there is real value for AI in EdTech products. And that value comes when you use these AI platforms and blend them with the data in your products to create new features that can help teachers and learners and school office administrators or whoever you're serving out there. It's basically blending your operations, your data. What really brings most value to the customers is the information in your system, the information that generates the information you've generated to provide if you're a content provider. And then you build in machine learning and AI and doesn't age out basically. So I'm all in favor of using the latest and greatest technology, but I definitely am hesitant to commit too many resources towards AI in my products right now. I know a lot of people are not like me though, and I see some interesting features that I hope can make a difference for schools and educators, but I haven't seen any real data on if those features are having the intended impact. For me, I'm focused with my AI plan on internal operations. As an engineer and leading an engineering team, I think about, and I'm not trying to replace my programmers or anything. And of course, every programmer worries that the AI is going to replace their job. Um, but AI is great at writing code. It's a great first draft. It could create scaffoldings and methods and designs and entities that would be tedious to write. AI is great for documenting code. We've seen some of the GitHub integrations. It's good at creating user documentation and operating even as a support chatbot. We know that if you send in enough good information, I think I heard from someone at Microsoft. This was a few years ago, really, that as they implemented their support chatbot, it actually decreased the number of tickets that were opened for Microsoft that had to be resolved by a human by 90%. And it took about 12 months for that transition to happen. So over the course of 12 months, Microsoft was able to reduce their human support ticket need volume down to 10% of what it was before. And that has real operating consequences and benefits to an organization, especially if that support that's being provided by that bot is effective. And that's all about the data and how you train it. So, when I look at my team, that's where I'm focused. It's not necessarily on how I build in AI to my software. It's how AI makes my organization a better and more efficient organization.
And very interesting. So what you're saying is there are two uses, right? One is improving internal efficiencies, where you definitely see value right away. When it comes to incorporating it in your product, it goes back to your earlier point about understanding your customers well. If you know your customers really well, you would know where the adoption will be and where it will not be there. So rather than investing time and effort and money into things where there won't be usage, I think when you understand your customers deeply, you're probably able to make those decisions much better. Now, again, we can go on and on about AI, but I do agree with you on the impact that it is going to have, and for companies to have an AI plan, it is it is almost an imperative at this point in time. Which brings me to some questions about, you spoke about your processes. Cam, you've had an interesting career journey. You've moved from an established company to to a startup. How has that been? How has the journey been in your career to managing different kind of aspects of teams?
Oh boy, starting off my career 25 years ago, and I was basically a startup back then, right? We were in the single digit numbers of employees. And when I came on that organization, they did have customers, and that was great. I had a lot to learn, and I did a lot of things that um, that I thought were good at the time. But looking back, probably weren't the best. And I was young, and my career has certainly come full circle, where now I get to reset. I get to start with a new organization, small and nimble, agile, just like it was for me and my team 25 years ago with my former employer. But I have all of the benefits of 25 years of failures, mistakes, learning that can apply to this team and make it even better. It's a real blessing that I do have this opportunity. And so even though it was for me hard to part ways, that you've committed so many years to, that I've committed so many years to, but you can always look forward to growing in your career and being able to use everything that you've learned to make the next organization even better.
Yep. And it's I've mostly worked in agile size organizations, so I sometimes think of how do you make the transition. So it's interesting to see that journey, and I'm glad that you're able to get take the lessons from what you learned into a new setup. So that's interesting. And Cam, it's been great speaking with you. I do have some parting question, but before that, is there any question that I've not asked that you want to talk about as relates to education, ed tech, or technology?
Well,
The,
I think one
so
thing that I might have missed and or forgot to say is that there are some real game changers out there. And I that I'm looking at what's if there's one thing that I want to see or I think is coming is that something like virtual tutors. And it's unfortunate. I think we're already kind of seeing it, but when we talk about AI eventually replacing real people, talked about developers, but when we actually look at replacing of real people in the industry, it may be that tutoring is going to be the first to go in education. That content seems well documented for all of the ways in which we engage with students and supplement their instruction. And it seems like an AI is a prime candidate to replace that.
yep. And what do you when you talk about virtual tutors and AI based tutors, what would you think would be some of the, I mean, of course, the advantage is scale, but are there any other advantages that people are probably not seeing right now that a virtual tutor or AI based tutor can bring in?
Well, it's the 24/7 ability for students to access resources, and certainly when we've had the internet for a long time, and with a good search methodologies and techniques, you can pretty much find anything, and you can find articles written by folks and read up, and you can find plenty of YouTube videos on all these topics. And I'm sure students have been using those resources for a while. But if they're offered a one-stop shop, that that's the easier way for them. Students, they're going to choose the path of least resistance, just like all of us. And if they can access quality content quicker and easier, then they're going to be attracted to that.
Yep. And the other, I mean, when I think about 24/7, and I'm sure you come across the scenarios as well, there are a lot of times when I'm doing something completely different and a question hits my mind like, okay, and if I don't get the answer then and there, that question disappears. So I'm pretty sure that if I'm learning a concept and I'm doing something else, suddenly I remember, okay, I need to find this answer. So I do see the constant availability being a big benefit. I do agree with that. So it was, this has been great, Cam. Thank you so much. What are some of your parting thoughts as you reflect on this episode to companies and to people in the product teams? What are some of your parting thoughts?
I've been thinking about that for a while as we've talked, and whether it's the future of ed tech whether it's emergencies, whether it's finding a niche for your organization to make money, to fill a need that schools have out there. What ends up coming down to is still the relationships. That it's relationships in the long haul, long run, but it's relationships today that the people around us, the folks in other organizations, the folks in schools, that the EdTech is a community. It's seeing the same people, even when they move from company to company. It's the same people, the same passions. They're just sometimes jumping on with a new company for one reason or another, and able to apply those passions. This industry. It sticks, and it's one of the reasons why I love it so much. So you can build these relationships over the course of decades, and really make close friends out there. So I enjoy it, and definitely will continue this. And I hope everybody kind of feels the same way. And I think they do. Um, and so happy to be part of education.
That's great. And it's amazing that we come a full circle. We spoke about technology, we spoke about, and we end with saying that, okay, relationships, the human element is so, so important. So, Cam, thank you so much. Where can audience find you? How can they connect with you?
Well, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, Camden Iliff on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk with anybody out there and connect with you.
All right. Thank you, Cam. Appreciate your time. And it was great speaking with you today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.